Start recording.
Recording in progress.
All right, I expect everyone can hear me. If there's any issues, you can let me know. Let's give it a few more minutes so people log in correctly. I think we lost Tim again.
No, I'm right here.
Okay, hello everyone. This is Chuck Tirone, Reading's Conservation Administrator. This meeting will be conducted in person and remote format consistent with Chapter 2 of the Act of 2023, which further extend the certain COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation and public meetings until June 30th, 2027. Please note that not all items listed may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. The agenda includes those matters which can be reasonably anticipated to be discussed at this meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. All materials are available at the following links I'll provide in the chat. Brian Bowe, the commission chair, will facilitate the meeting. Please note that we will be public comment period at the end of each hearing. Each vote will be taken during this meeting, will be conducted by roll call vote, and we'll begin with a roll call attendance. Brian, can you review the agenda and take the roll call attendance?
I will. So first we start with a continuation on a hearing for a notice of intent for 885 Main Street. That will be continued, however, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Followed by a continuation of a public hearing on an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation of 695 Pearl Street. Then moving on to continuation on an NOI for 57 Longwood Road. Then 692 Pearl Street is a continuation of a public hearing on request for determination of applicability in RDA. And that's it for our hearings tonight. And we have old new business and some discussion items and some minutes to approve. Having said that, I will now do the roll call. And this will be the order that we vote in when we get to that. So first, Martha.
Martha Moore, Vice Chair, present.
Walter.
Walter Talbot, member, present.
Is Shirag out there?
I didn't see him.
Okay. Tim.
Tim Michelle, member present.
Rick.
Rick Keough, member, present.
Joe.
Joseph Fleury, Associate Member, present.
And Brian Bowe, Chair, present. Okay, given that, call it to order at 7:07. So ready for the first hearing, which is 885 Main Street. As I said, at the applicant's request, that's going to be continued until July 23rd. Can I have a motion to that effect?
I move to continue 885 Main Street to July 23rd.
Walter Talbot seconds. Walter Talbot approves.
Martha?
Martha Moore in favor.
Tim?
Tim Michelle in favor.
Rick Keough in favor.
And Brian Bowe in favor. Okay.
So let me just make one announcement that we did receive the second round of comments from our third-party reviewer. We won't be discussing those tonight, but there'll be, you can find those on the Conservation Division page under 885 Main Street. And so we expect them at the July 23rd meeting for discussion.
Okay. Next is 695 Pearl Street.
And they'll also be continued to July 23rd.
Okay, can I have a motion to continue 695 Pearl to July 20?
I move to continue 695 Pearl Street to July 23rd.
Walter Talbot seconds it. Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Tim Michelle in favor.
You in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay. Next is 57 Longwood Road.
Yeah, so we have a choice on this one. So they haven't been responding to emails. So we can either take this off the agenda and wait for them to contact us again. They would have to re-notify and put an ad in the paper, or we can continue it to our next meeting
I just as soon continue it and give them.
and keep continuing it. So there's gonna be a point where it's not gonna make any sense
I
anymore.
think one more.
So I just wanted to tell you that if you don't continue it, I need to spend
Okay.
some money to get back on the agenda.
Right.
Chair,
So can I have a motion?
Brian, you gotta,
just my own
Oh, sorry.
understanding, how long has this been continuing for?
Couple months.
yeah, so maybe 4 meetings. And a couple times I reached out and said something to the effect of, consultants, there's a consultant that works for Hayes Engineering on this project. I said, usually consultants let us know when they're not gonna come to the meeting and continue that meeting. And I didn't even receive a reply to that email.
Okay, can I have a motion to continue 57 Longwood to July 20th?
So moved by Martha Moore.
Walter Talbot seconds, Walter Talbot approves.
Martha Moore in favor.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Keo in favor.
Rainbow in favor. Okay, 692 Pearl Street.
Before we get started,
Rick Keo, member, applicant. I do have to recuse myself.
because you'll be presenting.
I'll be presenting.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. So I will read the blurb. Continue the public hearing on request for a determination of applicability filed by Richard Keough pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and/or the Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes tree removal of 11 trees within 100 feet of a bordered vegetated wetland and intermittent stream. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass, and on the Conservation Division page, under project by year. Assessors map 57, lot 2, RDA 2025-8. Okay. You want to introduce yourself and walk us through it?
My name is Richard Keo. My wife and I, we live at 692 Pearl Street. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight regarding my RDA. This request seeks approval to remove 11 edge trees located within 100 feet of both a bordering vegetated wetland and intermittent man-made drainage ditch. 9 of the trees are mature white pines, each between 21 and 28 inches in diameter and approximately 80 to 100 feet tall. They all lean toward the home. 2 additional oak trees near the ditch are structurally compromised or present a similar threat. Let me also clarify that the request is not tied to any current plans for building. Our focus is strictly on safety, moving trees that pose a real and documented hazard. While I can't predict what we might consider years down the road, there are no active plans to build on the property, and I will keep conservation guidelines in mind. This concern is personal to me. I grew up along the Ipswich River, surrounded by woods in North Reading. And one of the reasons my wife and I chose this property was because of the natural setting and how it reminded me of home. I love being in the woods. It's part of who I am. But I've also seen the dangers that large, unstable trees can pose. A close family friend of mine, Mr. Tom Gunning, was tragically struck and killed in 2016 by a falling limb in his backyard in Ken, at the age of 48 while shoveling. That same day in Ken, a 6-year-old child died while also being struck by a falling limb. These are avoidable tragedies, and I do not want to see anything like that happen to someone I love or anyone in the neighborhood. Our plan includes responsible removal. As with previously approved work, the root balls will remain to prevent soil disruption, and all tree debris will be removed. A police detail will be scheduled to ensure public safety during the removal process. Although we are limited in replanting options due to dense canopies and existing root systems, we do plan to introduce native shrubs or native trees, particularly along the rear property line and along the ditch to help restore habitat and provide some privacy. My wife is particularly interested in planting mountain laurel, a native shrub we believe could thrive in the area. Additionally, if replanting on site proves constrained, we are open to donating trees to Bear Meadow Park just across the street, or making a financial contribution in support of local conservation efforts. In closing, I respectfully ask for a positive determination for this work so that we can address these serious risks in a timely and responsible manner. I appreciate your consideration and look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
So, just to clarify, on an RDA, you actually want a negative determination.
Okay,
That's the positive outcome.
okay, sorry.
Okay, commission members, any questions?
Have we the word ditch was used several times. Have we established that water structure on the side of the property is a ditch, a stream, a pond? I mean, what is the definition of it?
Yeah, I think the applicant is calling it a ditch because it's the bane of his existence at this moment, removing these trees. And the wetland scientist, myself, would call it an intermittent stream because it flows from a wetland, and whether it's across the street or whether it's behind the associated property that's at 700 Pearl Street. But I have to also let you know that engineering calls these things drainage ditches also, so that never bothered me. But for us, it's an intermittent stream.
So it's under the jurisdiction of intermediate streams.
Yeah.
Not under the jurisdiction of ditches.
Which there are none. So there's no drainage ditch in the Wetlands Protection Act. There's streams, there's rivers, and there's intermittent streams. So you will find those three things.
It is.
I was not present in the last visit, I guess, to identify which the 11 trees they are. Whoever did that, I would like to hear from them as well. Thank you.
Tim, do you have anything? I can't see that you could have a hand up or anything.
No, I'm all set.
Martha, do you want to walk us through our visit there?
Sure. I apologize, Richard, that I wasn't able to go when you were able to be home, but I did want to make sure I had a chance to see your property when I was in town. And I took some notes while we were there. Assuming that you have permission to take down the trees you're looking to take down, I was looking especially for opportunities where your plantings could take place.
Yep.
And one thing I noticed is that your front yard has no existing plantings, no foundation shrubs along the front of the house, no trees in front. Often people have somewhat smaller, more decorative trees like a dogwood, something like that in the front yard. So that's an opportunity for some tree planting or some of those mountain laurels you were thinking about. I also noticed that behind your shed, there's quite a stand of buckthorn. And if you were to remove that invasive buckthorn, that would also open up some space for planting other trees. There
Can I
is a
ask a question?
maple there. Yep.
Buckthorn, forgive me, I don't actually know what a buckthorn is.
Invasive?
Yeah, we could come out and identify it for you so you would know what you're looking at, but it's a shrub that is invasive, and it's one that we encourage people to take down, and, you know, try to keep the buckthorn population low. So basically you've got a stand of sort of 6 to 8 foot tall shrubs behind your shed. And if you took those out, you would have room for a maple that's already growing there, or maybe put a couple of other trees off in that back corner of your property.
I would agree with you. I have looked at that area. There is an oak that the arborist had mentioned to me that was already dead. It didn't really pose a danger to me, which is why it wasn't tied up. If it's okay with you, Martha, I would love to replace that with another tree as well.
Mhm.
It's currently not on the list of the 11 trees, but that is an opportunity for another new replacement tree in that spot.
Okay, yeah, I did make a note of a dead tree back in that corner. And I also made a note that tree A along the stream looked like it was dead to me. So tree A would not actually count in your tree count, because if it's truly dead with no bark on it, it doesn't count as a tree being removed. And
We'll add a shrub or two for that tree to replace it.
mhm,
Sorry, can you say that again?
I said I still would consider adding another shrub to replace that.
yeah. When Brian and I walked the property, you had a strip of yellow tape that seemed to be where you thought the 100-foot line was.
That's correct.
Okay. When we measured the 100-foot line, we thought that it was probably not quite accurate, and there are 2 more trees just outside of your yellow tape that we would consider to be part of this proposal. And I don't know if you got a copy of my sketch that I drew those in.
I did not.
Okay, they are quite close to I and H on your plan. And I would think that we should count them when we're counting within the 100-foot line. Everything else is further out. Yeah, so there you see the 100-foot line in I and H. We think the 100-foot line should be just a little further back and include 2 more trees beyond I and H.
Hold on
I
just a
don't know
second.
where it just went.
Sorry, guys.
It was there a minute ago.
Better than this. It's not that one for sure.
Were they in the center, Martha?
Behind the house, just beyond your yellow tape.
I know what you're
Right,
talking.
so
I'm not saying that we wouldn't let you take them down, just they need to be included in the proposal
That's fine.
based on my plan. Yeah, that's the one. So if you see I and H in the backyard,
Yeah, okay.
just beyond the yellow tape from I and H, there's 2 more trees, and then there's a big gap, and the rest of the trees in your property are further back and clearly beyond 100 feet.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I didn't know it was so close. I could go either way with it. I'm totally fine adding those 2 trees.
Yeah. Those were my observations. I did notice that a number of your trees had multiple leaders, so I would think that those are less safe to keep. The trees that looked like they were in pretty good shape are behind the shed, D, E, F, J, and K. So I'd want to consider those independently of the other ones that are closer and more damaged, like I, H, G, and the ones you marked as approved. So that's my thought, and I think the ones that I'm talking about, I'm calling them 4 and 5, just beyond the yellow tape. Those also have multiple leaders. So I would be comfortable if we had a good planting plan for removing them and replacing them with other trees. I think that's all I have to say on this one.
Okay. All right, let me add to that. I just told you on the side, basically, we agreed with that line, as long as you take the rightmost part of it and pivot it back 10, 12 feet or so, and that's when those trees fall into the. We did notice as we were going to measure to the wetland at the top right there, that you have some piles of brush and what have you in the jurisdiction. So if you could remove those, that
Yeah,
would
we
be good.
discussed it, I think, the last time you were
Yeah.
there, and I did clean out the ditch, I'm sure you saw. You know,
When we were there, we still saw more than one pile, could be two.
Right, but in the ditch itself, I
Oh,
went
yeah.
in there and cleaned out all the leaves.
In the stream?
Yep. Got me.
Okay, so, so we'd like to see a plan with a little detail about where you would put the replacement trees. And I recognize that your goal is to create a yard like you grew up with. I can accept that, which would mean putting them around the periphery to some extent. But if you could tell us where, how many, what kind, I would find that helpful.
And I would like to bring a specialist on site as well.
Which is
I just
great.
need some time.
And
My
I
priority-
also,
Sorry, Chair.
that's fine. I also would prefer more trees than shrubs. Doesn't mean it has to be all trees, but I certainly would prefer that the trees get replaced as much as possible. Let's see. Yeah, that was it. When we were measuring it, it was difficult. It was dry. So we were measuring it from the top of the bank of a depression. So it's by no means exact, which is why I said pivoted about 10, 12 feet. But it was enough that 2 more trees fell inside. And that's all I have to really say about that. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Hey, Brian, it's Joseph. Can you just clarify what you mean by approved on this map?
Oh, those are ones that we previously had agreed that Rick could take down because they were considered hazardous.
Perfect, thanks.
Good question. Chuck, do you have anything you want to bring in?
Yeah, so those trees that are approved would still be counted as the overall removal unless they're barkless and meet our dead standards. The only thing I want to mention, Rick, is I understand that you don't understand the stream and stream morphology or anything like that. Raking out a stream is bad. It's almost the worst thing that you could possibly do. We've given out violations for people that have altered that. So surprised Brian and Martha or someone didn't say anything about, didn't want me to be the guy, but this is not a seasonal thing that you can do. I mean, you did it this time.
Yep.
What we only allow is if there's a blockage that just happened, so, you know, and it's blocking the culvert, yeah, you know, take that out. I mean, and do some stuff, but I don't think you should take a weekend to do from one end to the other, to always maintain it. It should ride on top of those leaves. Those leaves are helping it to stay moist and stay wet, and there's a lot of activity that's happening underneath the leaves. So just want to mention that we're not approving that. The commission's not going to approve like that, but now that you know, it's just the blockage, and I understand it happens. I have a culvert in front of my driveway, and when there's a first flush of any storm, sometimes it gets blocked up, and I try to get that first few feet out of there. And, you know, that's maintenance, but the whole thing's not maintenance. It's just that couple of feet in front. So that's all I wanted to say, and I appreciate you listening to that.
I walked the property several months ago, but this is before we started identifying specific trees. If this project goes through, how many trees would be left within the 100-foot zone?
So off to the right where the stream is, a number of those would be left. And there still would be trees there, and that's also what they're talking about, planting more for screening and what have you. As far as the back, to the back left closest to the property, there's one or two over there that are pretty damaged. Those are definitely coming out. And then ahead of you, they're coming out. So there will be almost none in the rectangular yard type area, but they'll be off to the right between the two properties.
That's accurate.
And show an aerial photo of the property, and you can sense how many trees are on it.
Yep. So I understand that I, H, and G are healthy trees.
Those are ones that are tall, close, and at least one of them has a lean.
But at this point, they're healthy.
Yes. As the
Sorry,
arborist-
Brian,
Go
did Walter ask about I, H, and G?
Just I and H, I think.
No, I, H, and G.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I has all of its branches on one side, H has 3 leaders, and G has 3 leaders.
Okay, so they're risky trees, let's say, from their own health perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are a few deciduous trees in among these pines in the backyard. There's an elm near the place that's marked as 100-foot on the drawing. There's a cherry over near the shed. So, you know, if those younger trees were left, there would be some trees left on the property, even if the tall pines were taken out.
Yeah, Martha, that elm tree near the shed is marked for removal. At least according to the arborist report.
Do you have a letter on it?
I think that's C.
C is a pine.
Oh, yeah, C is a pine.
Yeah. I marked in a cherry that was not marked on the list near the shed. It's kind of near J, tucked in between G and D.
Okay, so the elm tree, according to the arborist letter, is close to the house at the back right, which is growing toward the house.
Okay, so they might want to remove that too, but it's maybe just outside the 100-foot.
You're talking about the one in the top right quadrant behind the shed?
No, I'm talking about right next to the place where you wrote 100 feet on the line. If Chuck moves his cursor, I can tell you if he's pointing in the right place. Yeah, just a little up from there. Right there. There was an elm right there. But I didn't compare that elm to the arborist letter. So if it's in the arborist letter as leaning toward the house, maybe that's not one you're planning to save.
Well, the letter says back right. I don't know if that constitutes back right.
No. And then not in our 100-foot jurisdiction, there are some other things, a red maple and some small maples, maybe a Norway maple. But they're outside our jurisdiction in that upper left corner.
So are we comfortable? We know which trees are gonna come down?
I think Walter asked a question about how many trees are gonna be left on the lot, and I put this up. So I think that question's still out there. I'd like to know the answer to that also.
Short term or long term?
Short term. So what's that in the blue? What is that going to look like when all the trees are cut down? So we understand what's in our jurisdiction. But what happens outside of our jurisdiction, as it says in our regulations, sometimes affects what's in our jurisdiction. So it's appropriate to ask at least. So is there, are you saving any trees within that lot?
Gonna consider it, yes.
But for the most part, they're all coming down.
For the most part, yes. There's a lot of pines still in that top left quadrant.
So most of the trees are coming down. And so that was the answer to my question. You okay with that? I mean,
He's
do
gonna-
you understand the answer? I'm not asking, are you okay to get a response? I'm
I
just
have
saying.
no jurisdiction outside the 100 foot, but since it does affect within our jurisdiction, what would the drainage situation be?
Well, so I think when you see a clear cutting of an entire lot, then, you know, there's a lot more going on. You're focusing on our jurisdiction, but if all the rest of the trees are going, it's really creating more disturbance than just what's happening in our jurisdiction. And again, we do have the right to look outside of it. If there's something that we expect that will happen, more likely than not.
Semantics are, we had several conversations with you before
Yep.
you applied the paperwork. And one of the impressions I have in my mind is the whole place is going to well.
Mhm.
Now, I have not heard that on record, but
Well, he did just say that he's taken down most of the trees on the lot.
that
But again, I'm also gonna be replanting trees along the outside plot lines in the rear. As well, like I said, I'm not looking for a blank yard. I'm just looking for some safety to get down some of these big pines.
Okay. Martha,
All I would like to see is a more fleshed out planting plan. Where will the mountain laurels go? What other trees are you planning to replant? And exactly where on the property would those trees go? I see you've got the green boxes here, but that's not very fleshed out. And when you're planting something like a red maple, we want them something like 20 feet apart. So you need more space than what's shown on those small boxes
Yep.
to put those trees.
Like I said, I do plan on trying to bring somebody on site to take a look at the property. I don't know a whole lot about planting or anything like that and how much feet apart for trees need to be or shrubs. I just need a little bit of time to do that. And I can obviously report back to you.
so we would like to see that plan before the cutting is done. Other than you can obviously already remove the ones that are approved because they were more hazardous. I recognize there's logistical issue there, but I think we want to see a plan that we can approve.
I don't think there's been any discussion of timing. When would you like this done?
I've been discussing it since March.
But when would you like first the
Soon as
removal done,
feasibly possible for Northeast Tree Services.
and then the replanting?
I hope, and I still gotta save up for the trees and stuff like that, but I hope in this fall, next spring, I could have everything in line. I just moved in, I still gotta furnish the place.
I do think we need to have a plan that shows what, where, how many, and an idea of when. Not so much for the cutting, but for the planting.
Mhm.
And then we're gonna have we will impose a survivability ratio and a duration, how many years. At the end of 2 years, you have to have a certain percentage of survivors. So that's all predicated on the plan. So I think the sooner you get the plan, the sooner we can put this fully to bed. I
Do you have
mean,
anybody you recommend that can come on site and help me out with this?
I can't.
No, well, I don't, as a town employee, we don't give recommendations, so the commission knows somebody, I'm not sure, how that works, but you'll certainly hear of people being on the commission also, so, that would be, something that you could do, so.
Martha?
The only thing I would say is there are other people who have had to turn in planting plans, and they are public record on the Conservation Division website. So you could look back through some of those properties and see who shows up frequently.
Thank you, Martha.
Yeah. And so it sounds like we need to request a continuance till the next meeting to give him a chance to put his planting plan together.
Yeah, I think that you could get somebody out there and still meet our deadline for that, so this could most likely, if that happens, wrapped up at our next meeting.
But
That's
again,
what I
you
expected.
can take down the 4 at
I'm not doing
Because
that.
we don't need a surveyed plan, this could
But
be a
have them get
sketch.
it at the time, you know that.
I just wanted to be sure that that's clear.
Costs a lot of money to bring them back a second time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a sketch would be fine as long as it's understandable. I mean, what you have on the screen now is, like Martha said, it just needs a little more detail. And I think you might be planting a lot more than, was there 12 trees now? I wrote down 12 trees because we added one. You said you would put one in voluntarily that kind of
There was
missed the
there was a
comment, but
dead
was
one.
it a
There's
dead one?
Yeah.
So that's still optional until we finalize this, but you talk to your person and then come back to the commission. And we need that by next Wednesday. That could happen. Oh, let me check, yeah. Yeah, no, it would be
Martha,
next
is your
Wednesday.
hand up fresh or still up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I
That's
just-
why you called on me. Yeah. That was from earlier.
I thought.
I can make some calls and help facilitate it.
Facilitate what?
Getting someone on site to help with the plan.
As Chuck said, as town employees, we're not allowed to make recommendations or anything.
Oh, I said me, that was for me.
Right, I'm not a town employee.
Yeah, no, you're actually a quasi employee,
We are considered special employees.
yeah. But I've seen it in other commissions where they'll, hand out some names at a public meeting, which I'm not sure people do it here. Maybe we should check into that first. I know I can't do it.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
you can.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
that's, so we didn't check. I mean, I could ask Laura Jim tomorrow. I know what's going on with that, but
So on
that's
that
our road
note,
policy, yeah.
we need to continue to the 23rd. So can I have a motion to continue 692 Pearl to the 23rd?
I move to continue 692 Pearl Street to July 23rd.
Walter Talbot seconds it. Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Michelle in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Sheet.
And is that 4-0 then? Because Rich recused
Yeah.
himself?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Come on back.
Keo, member present. Rick is fine.
Okay, and that's it for the hearings.
Yeah, Let me see if anyone's here.
Gino F is in the waiting room.
They are. Gino, are you both here for 50 Johanna? No, what are you here for?
We're inheritance.
695 Pearl Street. Okay. Um,
And it's in continuance.
Right.
you might want to say something later when we have public open forum. Is that what you're?
Yeah, we're just gonna.
Oh, understand the process.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, okay. Just wanted to make sure. So, Gino, I did talk to Maureen and she said she's juggling a couple of meetings. I don't believe she's here. And she asked me to wait up until 8:15. And she said if she can't make it at that point, she's not going to make it. So,
So can I have a motion to continue this till later in this meeting?
yeah, so I hope you understood that also from Maureen.
I move to continue 50 Joanna until later in the hearing, in the meeting.
Walter Talbot seconds it. Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Tim Michelle in favor.
You in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay. Violation notices, no updates. Unless you have anything on Pearl Street. I'm just hoping. Okay,
No, nothing on Pearl Street.
okay. Then discussion items. Item 7 is bee research. Chuck, do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, so Elsie Talley, a PhD student from Rutgers University, would like to conduct a small-scale research project at Millette Soms in Morgan. Elsie will be sampling a limited number of Seratina calcarda bees, and I have a picture of those. And if someone can say it better than me, please go for it. So these are the bees that we're talking about. And I guess they're at Millette Soms in Morgan. And they're small carpenter bees native to North America, and they're notable for its role in a general pollinator and as a model organism in a study of social evolution, which is quite interesting. So I did give permission for this bee research out in Millette Soms and Morgan. I thought it was a notable project in a notable town conservation open space. And they said they would be happy to share the research with us. And if there was time, they would come to the commission and present the research to us. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. And so I'm happy that they accepted Millette Soms and Morgan. And I do want to let our pollinator guy know about this because he's also, has an interest in bugs and bees. And so.
So these are good insects.
They're
not invasives or
well,
dangerous.
I did a little looking around, and these bees are, they're very good at pollinating other plants. And so that's one of the things, but I was most interested in their physical characteristics and why they were considered model specimens. So that was more interesting. So
But I looked and they're not endangered or anything like that, so.
no. So,
Okay, so you need us to approve that? You need us to?
well, I already approved it. It was more of an update. So that's really all. You can approve it if you feel like it. You
No,
can,
that's fine. You approved it, it's on you.
I heard back from members that they thought it was a good idea, and I appreciate the members that did reach out, that they did it separately, and they didn't break the open meeting law by telling their information that they approve it or they thought it was a great idea on a reply all email. So,
Get to in a second.
yeah.
Okay. So the next item is the onboarding of new members. So we have Tim Michelle, who's been on as an associate member and henceforth will be a full member. We have Rick Keough, who's joining us as a full member. And we have Joe Flurry, who's joining us as an associate member. So that brings us up to, is that 7 full members?
6 full members and
Six.
1 associate member.
Uh,
I have 2 associate members. Carl is
and
our
2
other
associate. So we're getting there. We're growing back up.
So we lost Tony, obviously.
Yes, he has to deal with some things. So this is a good time as any to do a brief discussion of the open meeting law and how it affects us in particular, especially vis-a-vis site visits and what have you. And I believe you will be asked to, as new members, you'll be asked to take an online course that has to do with new board members and implications of open meeting law, but you should be seeing that in your mail.
Yes, I sent that out today for the ethics and open meeting law.
Yeah, okay.
And so what you should do is there's two links. One of them is from the town. And if you go to the state website and you sign up, they'll remind you because ethics is once a year. They'll remind you that you're getting close and they'll send you a reminder to take that ethics course again.
And then they'll nag you.
To take it, I think, right? I believe it says on there.
I didn't read it. Yeah, I know that you have some time, but we shouldn't be talking about this in November, let's say. It should.
Right.
It's once a year, and it's generally around. This is our fiscal year, so one of the things we do each fiscal year, which was forgot, that we're going to have to put on in the next agenda is we have to reappoint our chair and vice chair. So all these things happen during this time.
Okay, so let me do the brief summary. So open meeting law ensures transparency in government by requiring that deliberations and decisions of public bodies be made open to the public. Public bodies, that's anything in the county, the state, local governments, boards, committees, commissions, so obviously us. When a quorum of members meets to discuss public business, the meeting must be open to the public. Quorum for us, because we have 7 members, is 4. And so if we have 4 on a site visit or standing in the parking lot, we can't deliberate. You can talk about things like scheduling, do the site visit next Monday, I'll see you there, whatever, but we can't give opinions, try and sway opinions on any particular item that's before us. We have to post notice of meetings at least 48 hours in advance. Chuck takes care of that. He posts the agenda online the previous Thursday, so it's actually more than 48 hours before the meeting the following Wednesday. Minutes must be recorded in written minutes that are made available to the public. So we now have a transcriber that we pay to write up our minutes. As they are done, they will be circulated to us and we review them and send comments back to her. We do not send comments to everybody. That's one of the things they look for, that serial communication. So you would send comments back just to her, and then she can do the updates, and then we would approve those minutes as amended when we get to that point. But in general, the key point, a part of the law has to do with the use of technology. So you can't do a reply all for anything that concerns public business, and you can't do serial communication, which would be something like, I send an email to you, you do comments, changes, and you send it to Walter, and so forth, because that amounts to conducting business not in public. So this is overseen by Attorney General's office. Complaints are filed by members of the public. And that's pretty much it on the violations. Let's see, what else did I want to say? So for us, the main thing is just the communication. And when we are together outside of this room, this commission has been really good about most people getting to site visits. So it is likely that we have a quorum, close to a quorum. We also have to watch it if there's a public meeting that we're attending. For example, when Simon's Way was being discussed, there were a number of commission members there, and we had to be sure that there weren't a quorum, in which case we would have had to go into session. Likewise, with the MBTA meetings, there's a lot of interest, and we have to be aware of a quorum there as well. It doesn't mean we can't meet it, just we have to declare the meeting and call it to order. And I think that's all I really wanted to say. Anything else you wanted to add to that, Chuck?
Well, I just think that if you take the course, it speaks for itself. It's important. This is a town where there's been a lot of open meeting law violations thrown at committees. So it's very important not to break those rules. And I'm empowering all commission members when they see someone on an email, not just me, to say, hey, save that for the meeting. That may be an open meeting law violation. Don't discuss, end it, whatever you want to say. But that's what we want to do with our emails. When I feel like something is so enticing that it may start a conversation, I BCC everyone. So blind CC. And people don't know, so they can't just reply all. And so that might be by habit also.
So for example, I go home tonight, I look up those bees, and I discover they're poisonous.
Mhm.
If can I send a blanket email out to everybody and say, hey, those bees we discussed are poisonous?
I believe so
It just,
in
that's
my
just
own
information.
experience, you can send out a comment, but then make sure that everyone understands that they're not to reply and this will be discussed at a meeting. But you should also BCC everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, and you have to be aware of the serial communication, which is if people sent you a comment back just to you, you couldn't turn around and send something out and start a chain.
Or someone wrote back and it was completely wrong and misconstrued what you were saying and you really felt passionate about correcting that. You can't.
I can't, right?
Yeah,
I
you
got
can't.
it. Okay.
So some commissions actually would tell you, you should send that to me. I'll post it in the time, and the commission will read it during their, when it's posted.
Okay,
When things are posted, we'll put it up on the website or we'll send it out to commission during our distribution day.
I like that system. I'll send it to you. I know you're bored.
I mean, it's difficult mostly around the minutes because we need to know what you said. I mean, you're not supposed to look at Brian and say, hey, Brian said this and that's not correct. Just look at least at what you said and make sure that's correct. And it has the tone and the meaning correct. So that's how
Okay.
you would do the minutes.
So I think that's it for open meeting law. Next topic is Conservation DPW monthly meeting, which is scheduled this month for July 15th. Martha, I forget, are you unable to meet that?
I can come as long as it's available online. I may be home, I may not.
Okay.
Okay.
And I believe I can. And by the way, anybody's always welcome to that. Just it's Tuesday at 1 o'clock and unless you have lives. Okay, administrative report, Chuck. Bear Meadow planting grant.
Yeah, so we've been struggling with watering enough at Bear Meadow. We have about $12,000 worth of trees and plants out, and 4 new gardens in the meadow. And so so each year I have over the course of the summer, I have almost 100 volunteers come through, but it's usually 20 a week. And then a couple of weeks, we have big weeks where it's 40 or 50. So we've been watering every day or every other day when it's needed, but during the heat spells, every other day. But we've had some die off already out there. And in August, the volunteers are gonna leave. So I need to get through August. August is the last hot month and maybe some part of September. So I'm gonna try to find new volunteers, but I'm also asking the commission members. Now Garrett lives close. I've reached out to him. Garrett's someone that is very active around the Trails Committee. You'll see him at some of our work days or whatnot if you go. I've asked Garrett and others that live around there, like Will Finch, but right now I've only been able to find one person that would cover it over the weekends. So this is going to be something I'm going to do because I don't want things to die out there, but I would like some help so I'm not there every day. So that's something to think about. It's in the watering. So there's a hose out there and you just turn the hose on and I disconnected the closest to the garden I want to water, and I just put the sprayer on it and spray the plants and fill up the gator bags. So it's pretty easy. I did it in 2 hours. That's your commitment, about 2 hours.
It's also easy to find the 4 gardens because
It's
it's been trampled
Yeah.
to and from.
a lot of action.
If you're out there after, see what time I get home from Dorchester, an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, 5:30, you're out
Oh,
there.
absolutely. So all
I can
conservation
sit-
land is open
go
from
out there.
dawn till dusk.
Okay, I can meet you out there, get an idea of the landscape, and if I have time, I can go over.
Even if you did 2 and then reached out and said, I did 2, can someone pick up the other 2 tomorrow? And that would be great, because that would just be, it might even be less than an hour. So,
I will say some of the neighbors around the area, they were looking at that fire hydrant. It was leaking quite a bit of water. I know it's been resolved now, but there were a lot of neighbors.
yeah,
that were
we
talking about that.
reached out and let them know that. So, yeah, and since you're near there, yeah, please keep an eye on that fire hydrant, because that's pretty expensive piece of equipment. All right, so Millette Soms and Morgan, was that the other one that you wanted an update on? Or no, Matera
Cabin
Cabins.
deck.
So, yeah, so one of the big projects I was gonna do this year is build a deck in the back of Matera Cabin. So that's a 24 by 24 foot deck with a handicap ramp, because my plan is to do everything I can handicap accessible, because someday the town's gonna say all new trails should be handicap accessible. So I want to get my boardwalks and decks and whatever I'm doing handicap accessible, so modification doesn't happen at conservation. So has a handicap ramp, has stairs, there's going to be a new path out to the existing trail that leads out to Bear Meadow. We have it framed. We have a little bit of the itty bitty stuff, like another screw here, another screw there, tighten up that joist hanger, things like that. Make sure it's bolted every 12 inches when it's going into the foundation. That kind of stuff needs to be looked at still, but we have half the decking on. And so you can go out there and you can see just how big that's going to be and how awesome a space it's going to be for programming and for any visitors to the cabin. So just want to give you that update. And I think it's pretty definite that we'll have it finished by this first week in August, which was what the plan was all along.
Okay, then on to approval of minutes. We have not yet received the last 2 on here, the 2 June ones. So we have the 2 May ones that we can approve. By the way, for you newbies, the policy is you are strongly encouraged to read, review the minutes and submit comments back to the transcriber. But when it comes to the meeting, we will be approving the minutes regardless, on the assumption that somebody will have read them and done a good job at finding things. And so basically everybody should come prepared to vote affirmative, but ideally you've read and reviewed and submitted your comments. Okay, having said that,
Another thing about the minutes, that everyone is under the impression that if you're not at that meeting, you can't approve the minutes. A minutes is an administrative action, and even if you're not at the meeting, you can vote to approve. You can also still choose not to do it, but I just wanted to put that out there.
okay, so May 14th. So the first thing, I guess, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes from May 14th?
I'll move to approve the minutes for May 14th.
Walter Talbot seconds that motion. Walter Talbot's in favor.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Keo in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay. The next one is May 28th. Same thing. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from May 28th?
I did read them. They just recently came out. I only found 2 mistakes and I sent them to Chuck and to the person typing up the minutes.
I
So,
found one and sent it to the transcriber.
okay. So I move that we approve the minutes from May 28th
As amended.
As
as
amended.
amended.
Walter Talbot seconds that. Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Keo in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay,
So we are sending corrections back down.
the transcriber, yes. So as far as the June ones go, so everybody is on the emails from Chuck's notes, so everybody would, well, did you all get copied on the May 28th? So is the list accurate, in other words? Okay, so let's make sure that she uses the complete new list of addressees.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So having said that, oh, there was one last thing. So next Tuesday, the select board will be considering budgets. So it would be great if people could show to support our budget requests. Do you want to send out what was submitted so the new people can see
Yeah, I'll send out the
what was
budget.
sent in the end? Yeah.
I was on the last meeting, I just didn't, I
Right.
logged off at that time.
So usually what happens is that you stand up at the podium and you present your budget and you take questions. So I've done it in the past, but anyone can do it if they show up. I think we all want to be there to,
I did it once. I might have just supported you, but I was there once. If you remember and still we had no budget. Fine.
okay, well, I'll give you that. You get half a
That's fine.
point.
That's one. Okay, but I'll be there.
Okay, and that's the next meeting. We'll verify that when that agenda comes out.
So what was the date on that again?
It's our next meeting. It's I believe it's the
I
14th.
think
isn't
you
it?
said the 14th, yeah.
It might be the 15th because Tuesday's the 15th.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so it'll be the 15th in this room.
So they're also talking about the Montessori Forest School on that date, and we would probably want to be there also
Yeah.
supporting that because the Conservation Commission approved the use of the Bear Meadow and the cabin and the pavilion. And that's really taken off in the last couple of weeks. Jane Wellman and Matt Cornelis were very helpful. Left all the work up to me, but were very helpful guiding it. And Melissa Murphy and Karen Herrick have also been very helpful. I think we have at a point where they're going to give a presentation to the select board And town council is gonna have their marching orders to kind of put a license agreement together.
Okay, that's good. That'll be a good deal when it's done.
It will be a good deal. Yeah, I think it'll help out a lot. And the deck would be well utilized.
I'm just trying to read that note, but, okay.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the problems with, Maureen Harold has entered the
Right.
waiting room. So that's what we've been waiting for.
Okay, then we can go back to the discussion item of 50 Johanna.
Okay, so you want to start that up now?
Yeah.
Let's wait until Maureen joins.
She said it. She had joined.
She'll be able to turn on.
Oop.
Hi, Maureen. Can you let me know if you're able to share screen from where you're at?
Yes, I should be able to share a screen.
All right, we're gonna start off, so wait for Brian. I think you might do a little intro and then introduce yourself for the record.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a violation discussion. It was learned that there were some trees being cut that had not been permitted. Since then, well, and actually Martha and I went and had the tree company stop their work. Since then, the applicant, the homeowner, has been to a meeting. They have retained Maureen Harold to work up a restoration plan, which she's going to talk us through shortly. And so at this point, that's what we're considering, is the restoration plan to handle the damage that was done by cutting of unpermitted trees, unpermitted cutting of trees. Having said that, Maureen, can you please introduce yourself and give us an update?
Sure. So my name's Maureen Harold. I work at Norris Environmental Services. I'm working with the homeowner, Gino Fedora, regarding a restoration plan for the enforcement action. I can bring in the plan if that works for the commission, and we can go over the site. Okay. Okay. So this is the existing dwelling and the driveway. As part of the restoration plan, I flagged the resource areas. The resource areas, this B series is the bank of the perennial stream that's located off-site. I flagged an A series for the bordering vegetated wetland. Again, that is located off-site. However, the offsets of the 100-foot buffer zone in the 200-foot riverfront area fall within the lot. Here is the 25-foot no disturb, the 35-foot setback that the commission likes to see, as well as the 100-foot buffer zone offset to the BVW, and this is the inner riparian zone. So as you can see, 90% of the lot is within the inner riparian zone. When I flagged the resource areas, I also took a look at the tree cutting. I noted 3 stumps in this species in the field, and I can bring in my restoration plan and the table. So here are the tree stumps that I noted, as well as the 4 existing snags in their DBH, as well as any type of notes relative to them. So one of the 18-inch white oaks had a metal rod through the trunk. I think that was likely used as a clothesline from the previous owner. One of the white oaks had a large gall at the base of the trunk. There was a twin red maple tree, which was split fairly low. I don't know, maybe 6 to 7 feet up. and the remaining tree, one of the trunks was cut, so the remaining tree showed a large amount of rot through it. And I can show the commission on this page here. So here are the existing D-limb trees that are now stacked. We have a large gall at the base of this. We have this clothesline rod through this tree as well. Here's another view relative to the dwelling. So as you can see, the existing snags themselves are fairly close. They're approximately 30 feet from the dwelling. This is the maple tree, the twin, where one of them was cut. Again, here's just another view of the existing snags. And then here's the rot that I saw throughout the maple tree. We are requesting the commission to allow this maple tree to be cut, given the close proximity to the dwelling. I'm requesting the commission to allow the snags to be cut as well. Again, fairly close to the dwelling. In terms of, yes.
So the red maple tree with the rot on it, are we looking at mushrooms there? Is that what I'm seeing?
This is,
Just,
it looks like there's some sort of fungus in this location, but it was certainly rot that I noted. This is bark here, not a mushroom, but it looked like there was some sort of fungus, certainly rot through the tree. In terms of the restoration, we are proposing a 1-to-1 ratio to the trees cut, as well as 6 native shrubs we're proposing to plant. I like to give the homeowners or any type of client a list of native trees so that there's some flexibility in case they go out and they can't find a red maple or a sugar maple. There's a variety of native trees that I provided. So we're proposing the trees to be 4 to 6 feet in height, and a minimum of 3 different tree species to be selected from this list below. In addition, we're proposing thick shrubs, 3 to 4 feet in height. A minimum of 2 different shrub species shall be selected from the table below. If there is any deviations from these lists, I specifically direct that applicant, homeowner, or contractor to contact Chuck or the commission to approve the new species prior to any plant installation. Lastly, I'm requesting the commission to allow the reestablishment of the historical lawn on the property. The lawn does extend into where the trees were cut into the backyard. I provided the commission with some photographs of the original home prior to the restoration and improvement of the home on the property. And I can bring those pictures in. So this is from, I think it was Redfin. I got these pictures. So as you can see, here's the porch and the original deck. The lawn did extend back into the property. Here's another view of the property itself. Again, showing the lawn encroaching towards the wetland area. And here's another photograph as well. We're not proposing to expand the lawn area, but we are requesting to restore what was there. It is also shown on the engineered plan, which I will bring in. So here is the proposed lawn area that we would like to restore. And in addition to that, we would like to construct a fence within the backyard area. If possible, as part of this enforcement, the benefits of installing a fence is that it will prevent any type of future intrusion into the resource areas, into the no disturb setbacks. Anybody, whether this house becomes sold or rented, anybody will clearly see this fence. And it just provides a permanent demarcation. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns the commission may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from commission members? Martha?
Thanks. And I'm remembering to lower my hand again. Thank you for this planting plan, Maureen. I like the list of trees and shrubs you picked out. Given that the majority of the trees that were removed were oaks, I'd really like to see at least some of the trees that are planted be one of those species of oaks, if not more than one species.
Okay,
Is that something you can ask the homeowners to do?
sure. I think that's reasonable. That's not a problem.
Okay, because I think oaks are a very high value habitat tree. I also have a copy of the plan that was presented to the commission on January 4th of 2023. And I'm questioning why their 35-foot and 25-foot lines are so much closer to the house than yours. They had the wetland boundary approximately where you have maybe the 50-foot line.
So that's a good question. I was under the impression, and Chuck, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression that the resource areas weren't flagged at that time the plan was created. I know when I flagged in the field, I didn't see any flagging or ribbon or anything of that nature. So maybe that's what the discrepancy is.
Good point. It does say approximate on all of their lines. So maybe they did not go to the effort and expense of getting somebody to actually flag them.
Martha, if you remember, what Giovanni said at the time was that they did not reflag, they used an older delineation.
Okay. So I guess that's one question I would want the commission to discuss, is whether we accept Maureen's new flags, or whether we are concerned about exactly where that wetland line is. I know you were talking about putting a fence, but we often mark, once we have flags someplace, we put some of those granite bounds to mark where the actual 25-foot line is. So I don't know whether we would want to add granite bounds at your 25-foot line at least. Okay, and let me just refer to my notes for my other comments here. Sorry, give me a second.
Nope, that's okay. Just to highlight, Martha, that the fence is proposed at approximately the 25-foot. If the commission finds that granite bounds is warranted, we could do that. We could put, I don't know, maybe signage behind this area. Whatever the commission finds appropriate, we can do.
Okay. Also, on the original approval for this remodeling of this property, there were supposed to be 5 shrubs planted in more or less the place where you're putting in the 6 shrubs for mitigation. And when I was there in April, I noticed that rather than planting 5 shrubs, they had planted 7 hostas. And those hostas were definitely inside the jurisdictional area, which means we would have preferred not to have hostas, but to have native shrubs. So I'm thinking that the certificate of compliance would have required them to put in 5 native shrubs. And if you're putting in these 6 as mitigation, we really ought to have more like 11 than 6.
Okay, I mean, I don't think adding a few more shrubs is a big deal. That's not a problem, but I do remember our discussion from, I don't know if I was in front of the commission a month ago regarding the hostas in lieu of the shrubs, and you wanted the shrubs. So that's why I had incorporated the shrubs in the location.
Right, yeah, but, I didn't want hostas, I wanted shrubs.
Right.
Okay, and then, when Brian and I walked the property after these trees were cut down, it was April, so there was probably a lot less growth at that time, but we found more stumps. And I think there are 2 stumps outside where you're planning to put the fence, near where you're planning to plant the shrubs. There were 2 trees cut there, and there were a few more trees cut in the backyard area near the words trees to be planted. There were at least 3 stumps back there that we found that you don't seem to have found. So it seems to me that more trees were cut than are showing on your plan.
Okay, so those were the stumps that I found. I absolutely could have missed some. Could the additional shrubs, the additional 5 to 6 shrubs, would that cover any additional stumps I may have missed?
Yeah. That's a good question. The stumps you may have missed were like only 4 inches tall, so they may well have been hiding in shrubbery in perennial, herbaceous growth by the time you got there.
Would that have possibly have been a shrub? 4 inches is
Well, they
relatively
were-
small.
My marks on my plan say they were 10-inch or 8-inch or 13-inch diameter and cut down at 4-inch tall. So it wasn't 4-inch diameter, it was 4 inches tall. They cut them off short. And then the stumps you found, they left 1 or 2 feet tall. So that was why they were easier for you to see, those slightly taller stumps plus the snags.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
Yeah. So, all right. So by my count, they destroyed a total of 12 trees. And by your count, it's more like 5 trees. Or, I don't know,
8.
8, okay. You've got 8, I've got 12, yeah. Or 7, you've got 3 stumps and 4 snags.
7. And then one maple tree.
Right.
But we would like to cut down that maple tree.
Yeah.
So I was counting 8, and I was planning on planting 8 trees.
Are the gray circles marked like T10, T16, T8? Are those all staying?
Yes.
Okay, so there are some trees back there, and then you've spread out your trees as best you can in the space where the trees were removed.
Right. So I was trying to space them out so that they weren't right on top or right near the dwelling. I didn't want the future homeowner to have this issue in 25 years.
Right.
So
And
I
I
tried
also-
to space it out appropriately.
Yeah, and I like that, and I like that you give the trees enough room to grow. They're not gonna be crowded once they get big. So I guess what I'm thinking is, given that I think there were 12 trees destroyed between the stumps and the snags, and you've counted 8, maybe we could put some more shrub layer along the back fence area, the 25-foot line, something like that, in addition to the shrubs you're putting in along the stream. So that's what I would propose, I guess, as a way to reconcile your count with my count.
Okay.
Oh, and there was at some point a large pile of logs in the back area. Is that going to be removed?
Yes, that will be removed and taken off site. So we're not proposing to chip it on site or spread any wood chips or anything like this.
Okay, I think that's all my questions and comments.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from commissioners? Walter?
Yeah, the grass plan in the upper part of the picture, the northeast side, it looks like you're putting the grass right up against the 100-year floodplain.
Yes. That's correct. That's historically where the lawn has always been, and we would just like to restore it. But we're also planting shrubs in here as well, as you can see.
That was my question.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, from my perspective, this came in a little bit late. I only saw the change in the flagging late this afternoon. And I would like to not move forward on this tonight. I'd like to schedule a site visit to go out there and essentially review where the flags are, because that is critical to where the fence would be and things like that. So I think that's the first point we need to nail down, is to understand how the line could be that different from what it was when we saw the original plan and we originally approved the plan. I mean, if it's a few feet, that'd be one thing, but this is a significant difference. So I would like to have a site visit to go look at it.
That's fine. I'm more than happy to walk the site with the commission. That's not a problem.
You want to review the flags?
That's what I said.
Okay.
Okay, so in that case, well, one other comment that I have is on the snags. I would like you to leave one snag, cut it lower so it's around 12 feet, so it's not a danger to the house, but so we get some habitat out of it. And then in the future, if it becomes a problem or the other trees are growing in fine, then you could take it down. But in the meantime, let's try and get some habitat out of it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little bit concerned about that. My understanding is a young family will be moving into this home with young children. I understand and appreciate the thought for habitat value, but I really prefer not to leave a snag. I do not want a young child to be injured or killed because we left a 12-foot tall snag. I would prefer planting an extra tree, or I'm happy to compromise in any other way. We can put up bird boxes.
No,
But
I'd be satisfied with planting an extra tree. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think a snag of a tree that was just cut is going to be any concern for a number of years. The kids will probably age out, but that's fine. I would take the extra tree.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about young children being injured.
Yeah. So Chuck, do you have anything to add before we?
Sure. Yeah, I'm concerned about your tree count. I see that you have 8 trees and 6 shrubs. And depending on what's picked, the 2 shrubs for each tree removed would have to mature at 5 foot tall. to be counted for 2, otherwise it would be 4 for each tree. But even taking the 8 trees and 6 shrubs and taking it at face value that they would be 5 foot tall at maturity, that doesn't equal 12 trees. I'm going with Martha's count. He's usually pretty good out in the field.
That's right.
He's like a southern hound dog out there when it comes to yeah. She's been good in the past. So we're gonna go with that count of 12. I'm also concerned about the fence and where it ends up in proximity to the wetland. I'm hoping you can bring it up a little bit. And when I saw those pictures, it looked like the grass didn't extend to the back of the property or back where you have the fences, which I'm assuming is the back of the property. And with kids and dogs, that's all going to get trampled, and it's not going to be pristine habitat. And there's an opportunity to have something in front of that wetland. And I know that you stopped at the 25-foot line, but as I understand it, we had to approve a fence for a dog right now. And so all this area is going to be given up. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm just saying, because we do allow fences out in this area, but if you could just move it up a bit, maybe in front of those 2 trees that you proposed planting. And so from those 2 trees back would be, air quotes, protected.
Okay, I'm more than happy to discuss that with my client. So that's not a problem. And regarding the tree count, if we do a site visit, we can just verify our numbers. So that'll work great for the site visit.
Sure, and and then I guess when it says the final count will have to be approved by the Conservation Commission or myself, I think that we would want to look at height at maturity and make sure that we get that correct.
Okay.
So this fence is, one of the stipulations, you must know this, that the fence needs to have an animal passage in it somewhere. Is that being thought about?
No. Like what type of animal passage? Are we talking about, I don't know, a raccoon or a mouse?
I don't know.
Or a coyote?
Oh, yeah, well, coyotes jump, so that's not a problem. But are you thinking about that somewhere? Because that might be something to discuss at the site. It is in the regulations. It is, I can't imagine that some other town hasn't asked you about that before, so maybe it's something to discuss in the future. The fence.
I'm happy.
Show where the gates are.
Yep.
So that needs.
So okay, so show the gates. I'm happy to discuss that at the site visit. In terms of wildlife passage, I think I'd have to gauge on whether that's wildlife going under the fence or how the commission interprets that. I mean, the nice thing about a fence is you keep your dog enclosed in your yard. If there's a wildlife passage, that doesn't happen. But I'm happy to discuss it with the commission to get some ideas.
4 inches. I don't know what kind of dog they have. 3.5 to 4 inches is what they talk about. And you look at fences on, like tomorrow, you'll notice that there's a post and the rail in between them is usually above the ground anyway. So it might not be that much of an ask at the end of the day. I wanted to ask about the flood zone. You're talking about going up to it. Are you crossing it anyway? Is any of that area beyond that line in the 100-year flood been altered? Do you need to do restoration?
So we are proposing some planting. So here's, if you can see my mouse.
I'm not worried about the planting. I'm worried about grading and bringing in topsoil and adding or taking away storage.
So short answer is no. We are proposing to do some seeding. So my memory is there was a stockpile of area of logs and branches around this location, give or take. So we would like to see that area to stabilize it. But in terms of bringing in loam or fill, we don't need to bring in loam. The loam's existing. We're not proposing to fill or grade. It's fairly flat out there. So it's really not even necessary.
So as I understand the plan anyways, it's that from that checkered line towards the river would be the flood zone, not from the line in towards the property.
Correct. So
Yeah.
this is the flood zone here.
It seems like the only thing you need to do out there is plant.
Yes.
And in the past, I've talked to FEMA and they've said that planting is not considered fill. So I won't consider it fill either. That was all.
Okay. Something you want to add? Yeah, I'm looking at this. So these plantings in the upper part of the diagram are within 25 foot. If I'm looking at this, the dotted line correctly?
Are we over here or we're up there top?
Agree with me.
Yes. So this is the 25 foot. It shows up as a faint purplish color here.
Okay, so this is all 25 foot and we're putting plantings into it? Sure.
Yes. It essentially will be restoring it because some of it was lawn. So this area here was lawn. And if the commission allows the fence, this area will naturalize and come back.
My concern is more about the lawn, actually. It's human nature to make the lawn as close as possible. And lawns get fertilized and have all kinds of chemicals and stuff put on them. I'm just worried about that happening within the 35 foot.
Well, the 25 is our buffer distance. The 10 feet is no structure.
But
So as long as they keep natural the first 25 feet, and as long as there's bounds, markers or something, so they don't mow in there, they don't do things in there, but then that's protecting the 25 feet.
my point is the lawn is breaking into the 25 foot.
Where's that? What did I just do?
I don't know.
Oh, gosh,
The
this is
historical,
crazy.
the historical line for the lawn.
So I was gonna tell you that Gio's trying to enter the meeting and speak. He has something to say. Brian, just give me a minute to get back into my computer.
Gio, if you can hear me, we'll be with you shortly, hopefully.
Where we have the 6 shrubs to be planted. They are within the 25 foot.
So Maureen, you're sharing the screen, right? Did you take that down or did I do that to you?
No, you did it, but I can bring it back up.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, don't want to.
Okay. All right. So the shrubs, here are the shrubs.
And then the green line penetrates the 25 foot line.
So the green line shows the approximate historical lawn that was there. And this is the 25 foot, this purple line.
What I'm saying is, I don't think we want grass in the 25 foot line for the risk of being fertilized or dug.
So I agree that there should not be grass in the 25 feet closest to the wetlands, closest to the flats. The grass-
So we're not proposing that. This line here with the squares in the line, that's the proposed fence. In this area of plantings and lawn, we're removing the lawn from this location and it's going to be plantings. And if the commission allows the fence, then everything beyond the fence will be naturalized.
No, I get it. I think it was just misleading because you had the hatching out there and it showed the historical lawn
Okay,
boundary. And so as long as it's clear that it won't be beyond the 25 feet, wherever that
Well,
is.
let's make it clear.
Can we,
Note the plan. Go ahead, Walt.
yeah, can we make the green line the way the lawn is gonna be?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or note the plan that this is to remain natural in this area here.
sure.
You should find out, Gio needs some,
All right, so
what else is called? Tree protection.
shields, yeah. So can we ask, Gio, are you with us yet?
You can unmute if you're listening. Are we,
Okay. Can anybody hear me now?
Yes,
Okay. So are we trying to say we're not able to approve this tonight because I have a family inside this house that is gonna have a baby in a few more weeks. And he was hoping that we could get this done before the baby was born.
so we just got the material.
Yeah, I mean, so I understand your concern, but we got the material just a short time ago. And the differences in the flagging is big enough that we really have to go take a look at it.
So if we meet on site, can we see if we could prove it on site and we could start the next day, if possible?
Well, we can only approve things, we only can deliberate in a public meeting, an open meeting. And so, no, we would have to
Okay.
go to the next meeting.
I'm also wondering whether you really want to be planting trees in the 1st of August, because that's generally a pretty dry time of year and it takes a lot of watering. And it might be better to approve it over the summer and actually do the planting in September.
We could do that.
And did you see the chat from the occupant, Brian?
No, I did not.
Yeah, the occupant would like to be able to unmute and be able to be called on.
Okay, so before we do that, though, Gio, are you set with your
Good.
questions, comments?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with everything else. Yes.
Okay, Chuck, can you,
Yeah, what's the
What's the name?
applicant name?
Sterling
Okay, I got it.
Spearing.
Oh, there we go. Hello. I
hi,
appreciate
can
you.
you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, of course. My name is Michael Spearing. I'm the current occupant at 50 Joyner Drive with my wife, Lauren. We just moved in about a month ago. We've been working with Gino to try and get this resolved since then. And so what I just really wanted to add here is that like Gino called out, we're expecting a child in about 2 weeks. And so time is really the essence here for us. The thing that we are really concerned about is that we have this kind of pile of debris that's just been in the yard continuously. And so even if we do have to come on site to do a site visit to redetermine what that line is for the fence to be put in, is it possible to move forward with the work of removing that debris so that it's just more kept in the backyard there in the interim? Or do we have to do all this together as one approval?
One thing I just would like to add is that the erosion controls are already installed on the property. And if the commission will allow us to move the snags in that one red maple tree with rot, we could possibly remove those snags, the tree, and get the debris off the property. And then work out the details in terms of the number of trees to plant and shrubs.
Well, that request just expanded. I heard from Michael that you wanted the pile of debris removed, and now it's gone to cutting down the snags and another tree.
Well, I was just thinking a newborn baby and tree cutters make an awful lot of noise. So I was really stating it for the family to prevent that.
That is
I don't know.
the main concern, rephrased much more nicely, Maureen. My wife is actually sitting next to me and agreed as you were saying that.
If the commission could consider that proposal,
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I also have concerns like Chuck about Mission Creek, but erosion is in. So if the line moves, so there's no fence or anything yet.
mhm.
I can't think of a good reason not to. Other than I hate piecemeal approvals. See, the thing that bothers me is that the core of this whole thing is getting the flags right. Everything is predicated from there. Where the flags are is going to have something to do with where the fence is.
Well, you just have to, I think that you're pretty good. So what I would say is the bar is pretty high, because if you allow this to happen before we approve, then anyone else who wants the same accommodation would have to have a baby.
Right, and I do know it's probably easier things to do to try and get around the
Yeah.
rules, but it is one of the problems we have, is that we do have to think about precedent. And there are times that we're living in the gray as it is, but this seems pretty far over, again, because the core thing that got our attention is the big move in the wetland line. You know, and that's where we always start. We start with where the wetland.
It's a compromised tree and the snags, right? So they're not really, I don't think that anyone's gonna want the snags in this area. I don't think if you ask me, I don't think the commission's going there.
No, I
Like
think
saving a tree within the play.
I think I
playing
already
area.
said that the snags come down.
And the only other
in
one's
return
that
for
dead
the
tree
tree.
and the pile of brush. Or that's what I'm hearing is what's being asked. You could ask others, we have
Yeah.
members, you could just find out, like, what is,
What does Rick think,
Rick
since
think,
you're an
yeah.
expert in tree cutting?
yeah, Rick, one chime in, give me a Rick.
Is it okay to possibly give an approval, to pass on my approval to Brian and Martha, make that determination on a site visit?
I don't think so. I mean, there are some things, for
Just to
example,
speed it up for
there are
me.
some things, for example, that we can authorize Chuck as an administrator to
Yep.
finalize. But as far as something where the wetland line itself is in question, that's too fundamental.
But fortunately, the trees and the debris are not located close to the wetland line. And it's just the removal.
Yeah, Martha, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we are very close to agreement on the planting plan. And I think we should maybe check with the other members of the commission, but I think it makes sense to have them be able to take the snags down now, and then we do the wetland line determination and finalize the planting plan at our next meeting. I think that's a reasonable thing to do, assuming they can get the tree cutters out there within the next 2 weeks. Who knows if they'll be able to come? But I don't see a reason to hold up the tree cutting, because I think, you know, in my opinion, we're gonna let them cut down the snags and cut down the compromised red maple. So I think we could let them do that part while we hammer out the final details between the 8 trees and the 12 trees question and the wetland line.
Okay, you convinced me.
But maybe check with Tim and Walter. I haven't heard from them.
So any of you 3 named individuals have comments or questions?
I'm fine with that.
I'd be in favor of removing the snags and getting rid of the crap on the ground.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I guess one follow-up question would be, how would that be handled in terms of like order of conditions? Like, is it a partial vote for you guys now on the snags, or how is that handled for the future meeting?
Oh, just an approval by the commission. You can vote on it too, but we come back and.
We would vote to approve the 3 actions we just talked about, but there wouldn't be any final vote on the project itself. The 3 actions would be removing the debris, cutting the 1 dead tree, and cutting the 4 snags.
Okay. And then I guess one other clarification point, Brian, would be, you know, for future precedent, how far in advance do these requests need to be made so we don't run into a similar situation where we're 2 weeks out from the birth of a child for the occupant? How is that typically handled?
Yeah, documentation has to be in a certain period of time before our meeting. There's no requirements for, you know, farther back than that, no less for the full gestation period. So we don't have anything like that, and we don't typically have a need for that.
Okay. So it's within that 48 hours of posting effectively?
No, so things are supposed to be posted, are supposed to be submitted to the coordinator the Thursday before our meeting.
Okay.
So at 5 p.m. the Thursday before is when the deadline is for things to be considered in the next meeting. Get that right?
I'm sorry, I was looking up. So this is an enforcement order that we're working through. So Joe, the practice would be that we could just update as a commission the enforcement order to allow these certain steps, but then to enforce what else we need, which is a plan.
A plan.
Plan, yeah. Let me see if I can talk at some point, boy.
Is your problem?
Yeah, so we have the plan and the site visit and another meeting to discuss all this. So that date of the next meeting could be put on the enforcement order and allowing these actions also. And so we can just incrementally kind of release it or tighten it up because we're in control. It's not an enforcement order can't go and be appealed. It's up to the commission. And it's usually standard to keep projects within an enforcement order because the commission has the most control over such things. I didn't hear your other question about when can things come up, but I would like to say that the Conservation Commission has authority through their the fact that they're on the commission and they've been sworn in to interpret the regulations as they see fit.
Okay.
Just remembering that they're here to protect the wetland and the environment, as it says in the Wetlands Protection Act. So they can make this change and accommodate somebody's request that night, if it makes sense. We try to, as commissions, to try to tie it to something so that everyone, if it's like this one-off thing like this is, and we don't usually approve things in the middle of a negotiation, because if the applicant never came back, it becomes really tough.
Okay.
But in this case, like I said, I think there's a reason to move forward. It's not likely a reason that someone else would have in the future. And if they did, it would be another good reason to make an accommodation. So I think that's why we're here.
Okay. I'm good with the comments that Brian and Martha have stated as well.
Okay, then, why don't we vote to approve those 3 actions?
And can you give me some direction on the updated enforcement order,
Um,
such as bring them to the next meeting
Right, so definitely come to the next meeting.
with
Yeah,
an updated
set
plan?
plans, yeah.
Yeah.
And ideally, that will have any update or confirmation of the wetland flags as a part of it, wetland line as a part of it.
Yeah.
And,
Maureen needs to attend the site visit.
yes, and I don't think we have final agreement on some of the planting details, for example, the shrubs, bushes versus the hostas. I think that's still an open conversation.
And you're allowing the removal of the snags,
Yes,
that one maple,
and the debris.
And the debris.
Fallen debris that's on the ground, or cut debris is on the ground. I think that's it.
and like no chipping on site and all that stuff, everything's removed.
Martha, is your hand up?
Yes. Normally, we would do our site visit on the Monday before our next meeting, which would make it July 21st. Does Maureen have to do we need to have the site visit sooner than that if Maureen has to get her things in the Thursday before the next meeting?
Yeah.
Or can Maureen make her plan and submit it, and then we go on the site visit?
No, I think that they're going to site visit first because the review of the flags will be pertinent to updating the plan.
Okay, so
We have to
we
make site
should,
visit that Monday anyways, Simon's Way,
which Monday?
the 21st.
Right, but our next meeting is the 23rd.
Is the
So
Monday the
should we-
21st?
Yeah, Monday's the 21st.
We have a very lengthy site visit at Simon's Way on the 21st, so it would be better to have this before.
Okay, so why don't we see if we can schedule a site visit in the next week? I know it's a tough time for vacations and everything, but Martha, when are you back? No, actually, don't answer that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my schedule and thinking that probably Wednesday morning, the 16th, I could do a site visit, or Thursday, the 17th. Would either of those days work for Maureen?
Yes.
I could do either of those also.
The 17th I would have to do in the morning. I have a 1 or 1:30 site visit in Danvers, but I can do any time on the 16th.
So Martha, do you want to aim for 8:30?
8:30
Well-
on the 17th.
Which day?
That's Thursday.
What be the time first? So we want to go at 8:30. Is that okay with you, 8:30?
8:30 works for me on either the 16th or the 17th.
Okay, did that work for you?
17th, 16th doesn't.
Okay, the 17th is better. Does either one work for you? Tim, does either one of those, well, does Thursday, the 17th at 8:30 work for you? Everything?
I could say yes now, but yeah, it changes day to day. So I'll say yes and then until it doesn't.
Okay, yeah, but at least it's possible. So,
Yes, I'll be in town.
okay, so Maureen and others, let's schedule it for 8:30, Thursday, the 17th.
Okay.
All right. Okay, having said that, I think we're done with this for the evening.
Well, I just want to thank the commission for your flexibility in allowing the tree debris and the snags to be removed. I really do appreciate that and look forward to seeing you on the 17th.
Can
Okay,
you give us notice on when the trees are gonna be cut down?
Sure,
Maybe the day before would be great. And if
not a
it's
problem.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that, can you make sure we get that information on Thursday? Because we're
I can do that.
Thank you, Maureen.
Good.
all
No
right,
problem.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We're about done. Do you folks want to take the chance to say anything? We can have a quick public comment period. Okay.
I'm all right.
Long night.
Oh, not for us. This is good. So on that note, can I have a motion to adjourn at 9:04?
Oh,
Oh, hang on.
I was gonna go over 420 April Street. I talked to you about it.
Yeah.
The work's completely outside the 100 bus. It doesn't need to be talked about.
I approve in absentia. Okay. So on that note, can I have a motion to adjourn at 9:05?
So moved by Martha Moore.
Seconded by Walter
All in
Town.
favor?
Aye.
You're allowed to second things. A motion
No, I was
things.
following the order.
Doesn't have to be Martha every time. Although it's easier when you're doing the minutes, because you just cut and paste.
All right, so we're all set? Did we
All
get a,
set.
all right.
Thanks for sitting through us. Lights still green, Chuck.
Yeah, maybe hit the wrong one.
Nice to meet you guys.